voice actors from your favorite anime, video games, and cartoons are playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition every Wednesday on a new podcast called The Dungeon Booth. The first 11 episodes bring together the English voice actors from the hit anime series My Hero Academia, including the voices of Eraserhead, Charge Bolt, Mandalay of the Wild Wild Pussycats, and the Invisible Girl. In the Dungeon Booth, these voice actors become original player characters in a wheels-off D&D adventure full of combat, discovery, intrigue, amateurish attempts at romance, and professionally timed fart jokes. And when each game ends, the next game begins with an all-new entertaining cast of voice actors ready to jump into the booth. So go listen today and every Wednesday on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, or on their website at thedungeonbooth.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons & Dragons, from billions of boars to backstabbing bastards, and today we're talking about Bugbears.
The Dungeoncast. All right, Brian.
It's here.
It's time to talk about the final Goblinoid.
At last.
Bugbears.
We're just gonna bookend these goblin boys with these bugbears.
Indeed. Bugbears are actually my favorite of the Goblinoids, which is saying something because I also like hobgoblins a lot. I like goblins in general. I'm a big fan of the whole goblin everything. So they're wonderful to use in campaigns. I like goblins.
Reflected by your Goblin's Rule sweater. You're not wearing it now, but I've seen you with it.
But yeah. Also, there's been a bit of goblin lore in our sci-fi game because
there has.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, anyways, Bugbears. That's what we're talking about today.
Yes, we are talking about Bugbears today. Shout out to Josh Freeland.
Indeed. Bugbears are large, hairy humanoids related to both goblins and hobgoblins. They stand about 7 feet tall or so, maybe even 8 feet tall.
Big meaty boys.
They have long wedge-shaped ears, and they are named for their claws, teeth, and noses, which are all very bear-like. They're also covered in a thick, coarse, yellowish hair. Kind of like a Sasquatch.
Like a yellowish Sasquatch.
Like a yellow Sasquatch.
Like a Sasquatch with scurvy.
So Gary Gygax introduced the idea of the Bugbear in first edition. It was also noted they were also called Booger Bears. And he took the name.
I remember seeing something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. He took the name from old European folklore. So bugbears were fictional beings similar to hobgoblins. They were like phantasmal beings that parents would tell stories about to their children, get them to behave. Like, don't do that, or the bugbear will get you. Or
the booger bear will get you.
Yeah. Don't go alone in the woods. The booger bear will get you. Also, boogeyman.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's the etymology of that.
Boogeyman equals bugbear. Damn, that'd be crazy. Mm-hmm. I've never pictured the boogeyman looking like a goblinoid. That's actually pretty fitting.
Yeah, it's very fitting.
Don't go into the woods, you'll get snot on you.
Right. So while goblins have a reputation of being clever pests and hobgoblins are seen as like an organized military threat, bugbears have a reputation of being brutish savages.
Yeah.
They spend most of their time sleeping, hunting, killing, eating, and bullying other goblinoid allies, if they even have any of those.
They're the most chill of the goblinoids.
But they're also the most assholes.
Yeah, if they weren't, when they're not busy being assholes.
Yeah. There's something endearing about their simplicity. I don't know I know I'm kind of projecting on that, but like there's just something endearing about bugbears, and I don't know what it is. It's because they're covered in hair. If they weren't covered in hair, I think they were nasty creatures.
Yeah, probably.
But because they're covered in hair like a dog, I think they're cute.
Well, we have art. We had art made of a very well-groomed bugbear.
That's true.
It's a very nice looking piece.
Yeah, it is. It's the best looking bugbear I've probably actually ever seen.
Yeah, will ever see.
Yeah. So they're notoriously lazy and they hate to be bossed around by bigger and tougher creatures. Because of this, bugbears are often loners in the wilderness. If they do decide to put in the effort, one may wrangle up like a bunch of goblins and then bully them into their service.
Okay.
Like, now you do everything for me.
Like a bugbear with like a little bit more like proactive.
Yeah, a little bit more proactive. Like maybe a little bit more foresight. Like if I do more work now, I can do less work later kind of deal.
Okay, that's one of the smarter of them.
We're going to talk about bugbear intelligence because they're not necessarily that stupid. They're actually, we'll get to it. So, bugbears will work with and for hobgoblins, but only with the guarantee of food and fighting, basically being always provided, and they do it super begrudgingly. They also will work with hobgoblins when it comes to forming a host, but there's more religious reasons for that, which we'll get into later.
Okay.
So because of their nature,
goblins do have like a religious hierarchy about them.
They really do. Yeah. They're really kind of enslaved by their pantheon, if you will.
Right. The jester, right?
That's the nilbog.
The nilbog.
The jester is the thing they do to prevent a nilbog from existing.
That's right.
But yeah, so
because they don't actually want that shit running around their fucking lair.
Indeed, they don't. So because of their nature, the bugbear population in any given setting is often small and spread out over a very wide area. But when circumstances are right, bugbears can form family units of up to like a dozen or so, and they operate kind of like as a gang. They just kind of just brood about being a gang, yeah. So as long as food is plentiful and things are going well, the gang will remain really tight-knit, and they'll cooperate with surprisingly impressive degree.
Yeah, because everything's good.
Yeah, everything's good, and they're relatively clever for such big beasts, that are kind of stupid. But when times turn tough, and it's not long before good feelings turn sour, bugbears' selfish natures will begin to surface, and they'll quickly either begin bullying the weakest member or straight up exiling them because they put a strain on resources.
It's the same thing that happened to the Beatles. Just one of them wants to go solo, and it's all bad. One of them gets a girlfriend, and it's fucking nasty. Gets nasty up in there.
Yeah, I mean that's
yells
part of
a lot.
what happened.
She just yells a lot. And
this is a Beatles podcast, but we could do one. The greatest band in the world, my favorite band, the Beatles. I could do a podcast on them easy.
Just include everything that happened to the Beatles in the Bugbear lore.
Just make it.
When Bugbears like gather up, they're like a rock band, and then they break up for the same reasons rock bands break up.
Yeah, there you go.
It's usually dumb reasons.
So on their own or not, bugbears are incredibly adept at wilderness survival. They have keen senses of sight, hearing, and smell for hunting. Despite their size and strength, they have extraordinary stealth abilities. They're highly dexterous and light of foot and fast. Kind of like an actual bear.
I didn't know they were stealthy like that.
Yeah, they're super stealthy. And again, they're really fast. If they come running at you, they're quick.
Oh, wow.
Like an actual bear. Like bears are big and bulky, but they're actually really stealthy and fucking fast.
Bears are very, very fast.
I think they can clock at like 40 miles per hour.
Yeah, something like that. It gets up there, dude. I've seen bears running down, not in person. I've seen videos of bears running down the side of the highway next to cars.
Yeah.
Just like looking at them. Just like hustling.
Indeed.
Damn, how do you move all that? How you move all that, baby, down?
Because they're so strong.
So strong.
So they're fairly indiscriminate about what they eat, but for the most part, they are carnivores. Their hair keeps them warm in the winter. So these are, again, all things that like make them really good at surviving the wilderness. But lastly, they may be dim-witted, but they aren't truly stupid. The average intelligence of a bugbear is about 8, which is higher. Right. Yeah, that's higher than both gnolls or orcs.
Yeah, super languagey.
Yeah,
you're talking.
Yeah, they could talk. They're just like a slightly dumb human is basically their average intelligence.
Okay.
Bugbears are capable of crafting basic tools and traps, and they do so on their own in the wild whenever they need to.
I don't know if y'all know this, but slightly dumb humans are super duper dangerous.
Yeah, and quite clever, in fact.
In the brain world.
In the brain world,
they have to compensate by scheming against everybody forever.
Right. So bugbears have a fairly long lifespan. They live about 75 years. And another notable thing is they actually retain most of their physical capabilities well into old age.
Oh, cool.
So like
Saiyans.
Like Saiyans. There we go. Like a 35-year-old bugbear and a 65-year-old bugbear. Still pretty even match.
Okay, sweet.
I don't think it's till like the actual twilight years, like those last 4 years, that things start to dwindle. Yeah, so
there's a lot of books written in that time, like my last 4 years, or like my 30 years as a strong ass bugbear. It's a lot of autobiographies.
Well, it'd be my 70 years as a strong ass bugbear, and then my last 5 is like a thoughtful, insightful author.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Your strength goes down, but your intelligence goes up. It's like a reallocation of points.
There you go. So believe it or not, religion is actually a major influence on the behavior of bugbears, or more likely, they use their religion in order to explain the way they are.
I almost thought you were going to say they use their religion to X, and then I heard ploit. And then I don't know what you were going to say after that.
But we'll get into their religion after our short rest.
I love resting for a short amount of time.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome to the part of the episode where we're not talking about that last thing we were talking about. We are talking about something else, and it comes from our hearts. Will, what comes from your heart that you want to tell the listener about?
I suppose my love for them is the first thing that comes to mind.
First of all, Will, 100% correct. Second of all, great job again. Thirdly, I love you guys too. And really, first things should have been love. I love you. I love you first. Good job, Will. You were right.
Cool.
Something like that.
Cool beans.
Love is first here on this part of the show. What do we want to talk about that isn't love? It's also love. It's all love. but like, what else are we talking about?
So we wanted to kind of do a shout out or a plug, if you will, on our live play on our YouTube channel called Super Quest Saga, where I dungeon master a 5e D&D game set in a space cyberpunk space opera kind of thing. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. You should check it out. Shows come out every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks, every 2 Wednesdays.
Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I've been landing on Tuesday nights. It's kind of where it's been landing.
I mean, this show comes out on Mondays, but I'm constantly dropping it on Sunday because I don't want to be late. I'm paranoid about being late.
Yeah,
so
I'm the same.
Early all the time, always early.
But yeah, it's gotten a pretty good reception. People seem to enjoy it, and yeah, please check it out. We put a lot of work into it, and it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's a great game. Sci-fi, cyberpunky, kind of like. Oh man, there's like unique skills that there's a lot of homebrew, a lot of reskinning, but it is 5e, and we just got a new list of skills. We just finished a story arc that's like super badass. That it really kind of sets the tone for what's to come. I don't know what's to come. I'm a player, and that would be bad if Will told me all of the reveals. But our next episode that we're going to record after this recording is some reveals. I've been told. Yeah,
lots of world building in the interlude episode coming up. I'm very excited for.
World building is great because then you get to execute adventures afterwards.
It's true.
So if you want to check that out, it's on our YouTube page, the Dungeoncast YouTube page. Please go check us out. Hit the subscribe button. Go check those videos out. There's a playlist with all of the Super Quest Saga stuff in there. There should be like, what are we on? Like 7-8 episodes by now?
Yeah, we're recording our 8th episode coming up.
Okay, so there's a good chunk of stuff for you to go knock it down. They're like 1.5 hour episodes tops. Real good stuff, guys. I'm having a great time playing in it. So I think with that, though, we should get back to the show.
Let's Indeed.
Get to the show.
And we're back.
We've returned.
It's time to talk about Bugbear Religion.
That's all I've ever wanted to talk about. I didn't know it until you said that.
Yeah, I was actually pretty surprised by how much kind of meat there was when it came to the Bugbears and their religion, but let's just get into it. So Bugbears have 2 major deities, Hrugik and Grankul. Now these deities, these deities are brothers.
Okay.
And it said that when Maglubia annihilated most of the Goblinoid pantheon, as he did, he ended up showing mercy to these brothers. He even went as so far as to set the brothers free to do as they will. And he did these for unknown reasons, although it is speculated. It's speculated by some that the reason Maglubia did this was maybe to the fact that keeping them alive would make controlling the Bugbears a little bit easier, since, you know, they're big, strong, meaty boys and they like their gods a lot. So maybe not killing them would be a good way to keep them in hand.
Okay.
Also, the brother gods themselves seem to have a relatively positive effect on Bugbear behavior, making them more useful in general.
Okay.
So that could be another reason. Especially since Maglubia is a fucking evil piece of shit. Like, yeah, he had to have a reason. Like, he's Asmodeus level evil, just not cunning, you know?
Yeah, not as good, not as powerful.
No, indeed not. So let's talk about the brothers. So Hrugik is the elder of the 2 siblings, and he's known to be the fearsome, mighty, kind of legendary warrior, one of the 2.
Okay.
Bugbears believe that their strength and bravery come from Hrugik.
Nice.
Grankul is a younger sibling. He's known for his cunning and his stealth. Bugbears believe that Grankul gifted the Bugbears with their counterintuitive stealth, you know, because they're so big and burly, they shouldn't be so stealthy, but they kind of just mystically are.
Okay.
But that he did this with a price. Bugbears believe that Grankul took a portion of all Bugbears' vigor and constitution, which is why they sleep so often and are generally lazy.
Oh.
The reasoning for taking their vigor is so that Grankul never has to sleep himself. Grankul acts as Hrugik's personal bodyguard and always stands watch as his brother sleeps, because his brother has a lot of enemies.
He just sucked up all your ability score points that you didn't use.
Yeah,
he
just swapped some stuff around. Yeah.
He's point buying all of his NPCs.
Right. This is where I was kind of saying, like, the gods explain their like Bugbear's kind of natural inclinations, but also just might be an excuse.
Okay.
But I think this is actually legit, since, like, we do know in D&D the gods are real and these are the things they do. So I think this is, in fact, how and why it is.
All right.
So for the most part, the brother gods stalk the lower planes, battling and preying upon all they meet, as is their right as superior warriors in the view of the Bugbears. Hrugik collects the heads of his kills and places them on spikes within their den.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Strahd von Barovich.
I know. In rare times that Grankul has to leave Hrugik when he's sleeping, he'll whisper commands to the heads to wake his brother if there's danger.
Okay.
So he's always looking out for his bro, which is kind of why I like these guys. I just like that. It's like, oh, they're two evil deities, but they got each other's backs. Like, it's really cool.
They're like doing they're doing like what's that shit they do in Looney Tunes with the canes and the top hats? And they like do like a tap dance on stage together.
Sure. Yeah,
they're fucking doing that. And they're like, you're real strong and I'm real stealth. And we like bugbears. We are bugbears.
Right. That's hilarious. So the only other deities that bugbears recognize are Maglubiet and a mysterious entity known as Skigaret.
Okay.
So that's
a cool name.
They recognize both these deities, but with both disdain and fear. So though bugbears hate Maglubiet for subjugating their gods, they also recognize the mercy and honor he's kind of shown them by allowing the freedom of their deities. So periodically, Maglubiet will call upon the brothers to serve in his war on Acheron, and they must obey the call. They must come.
It sounds like 20-somethings that are like begrudgingly living in their parents' house.
Right,
like,
sure.
oh, I hate those fools. They never let me do anything I want. But, you know, they're
cool
stocking the
sometimes.
fridge.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like that attitude. So like I said, periodically Maglubiet will call upon the brothers to serve in his war, and they must obey. So when hobgoblins on the material plane form war hosts, bugbears see that as a sign that their gods have been conscripted, and so they'll do the same in solidarity with their deities.
Okay.
So again, great way to keep the bugbears under control for Maglubiet. Keep the brothers alive. Skigaret is a bit more of enigma of an entity. It's essentially the boogeyman for bugbears.
Okay.
It's said
that boogeyman's boogeyman.
I know. It's said that Skigaret attempts to cause fear and panic within bugbears in the midst of battle. It's like this fear is like a form of madness that will infect a bugbear, and the bugbear cannot resist it. And when they get infected with this fear, they'll just kind of lose their minds, and they'll do whatever it takes to survive, whether that means fleeing or killing one of their own or whatever.
You know, I was regretting missing a John Wick reference, and we're still way on track for it. So this Skigaret?
Skigaret
is John Wick.
Okay, sure, yeah.
He's the boogeyman that the boogeyman's afraid of.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
People are doing whatever they can to get the fuck out.
Right. So yeah, Skigaret's just kind of an asshole. There's really not a lot said about him. I don't know what he looks like or where
like
he
Keanu
fits.
Reeves.
Yeah, I guess he looks like Keanu Reeves.
Someone killed his dog, and now he's out to like fuck up everything.
So bugbears don't have priests, and they don't have shaman. They don't really have any special rituals either. They worship their gods by just being bugbears to the best of their abilities.
Oh, I've seen a lot of that where you're like just kind of doing stuff, and like if you're Hero, right? The god of justice just like shows up. It's like, good work, guys. You've been doing great for your Lord and Savior. And they're like, who the fuck is you?
Right.
And they're like, I'm not surprised you said that.
Well, with the bugbears, it's like, no, they know and they love their gods, but like their gods don't want them to do anything but just be fucking bugbears, bro. It's just like, we love bugbears, we love being bugbears, and we want you to be bugbears too. That's all you got to do.
When a group of them does something particularly bugbearish, their god arrives and is like, I just want to check in and say, good job being you, bros.
Right, pretty much. Occasionally, some bugbears will collect the heads of their kills to honor and emulate Hrugik. But if they do this, they'll also sew the eyes of the heads open to pay homage to Sleepless Grankle. That's the only real ritual they got going on. It's grotesque, but it's kind of cool.
They're just looking around like, you know what we haven't done in a long time? Fucking beheaded our enemies and like sewed their shit open.
It's so true. We don't do that enough.
We don't do that very much. Maybe we should pop one off. It's been 6 months.
So any questions about bugbears before we get into some of the stats?
Oh, they're weird. They're super weird.
I like bugbears, man.
I like them, but like
they are a little odd.
This is weird. This isn't like goblin stuff to me.
No, because they're different.
They're just,
like hobgoblins, goblins, and bugbears are all very unique in their own right.
They're goblin adjacent, but they're goblins.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So,
like hobgoblins kind of remind me of goblins in a lot of ways. They're like meta goblins.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
These are like
they're a little bit
cousins.
They're cousins.
They're
the weird cousins. Yeah. So bugbears have both a racial stat block and a monster stat block. So the monster stat block's pretty straightforward. You know, it's your average low level mob creature.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's challenge rating 1. So it's a nice early level monster to throw at your
level 2,
your
level
party.
3.
They do have 2 interesting traits that I kind of want to talk about real quick that make them a little unique. So they have a trait called Brute, which basically means a melee weapon that they deals 1 die of its damage extra.
Ooh, cool.
Now this is included in the attacks already. So like it's not really necessary for him to state it, but I guess it's kind of interesting.
All right.
They just hit a little harder because, they're big, strong boys.
With like foreign object or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. If they got a weapon in their hand, it hits hard.
Watch out, watch out, watch out.
Now, the second trait has to do with, again, their stealth. Their trait's called surprise attack. If the bugbear surprises a creature and hits it with an attack during the first round of combat, the target takes an extra 2d6 of damage from that attack.
Cool.
So yeah, they're expert ambushers.
Sweet.
Yeah, very fitting in bugbear lore. So that's basically it for their simple like monster stat. But you could play these guys. Like they have racial traits. You can find them in Willow's Guide to Monsters. So let's get into it. Bugbears get a +2 to strength and a +1 to dexterity. They have average walking speed, about 30 feet. Dark vision, of course. Why wouldn't they? Everything else does.
I don't even feel like commenting on it at this point.
I know. They have a feature called Long-Limbed, which says when you make a melee attack on your turn, your reach for it is 5 feet greater than normal. Now that's very useful for staying out of like melee like combat. You don't have to disengage at that point.
That shit gets abused.
Yeah,
honestly.
it's very
and
abusive,
why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Also, I just think it's a cool feature.
It's a weird thing to like try to visualize in combat, like getting hit by something that's 10 feet away from you.
Right.
But whatever. Mechanics, like when the role play ends, battle begins.
For sure.
I mean, you carry the role play into battle, but we are in a mechanical thing now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's much more quantified.
I'm just like, I don't care. Like it says 10 feet. I don't need to worry too much about what it looks like.
Well, like, the way I visualize it
fucking
is
Stretch Armstrong and your Warhammer's out.
When two creatures are fighting, they're not just standing next to each other. Like
they're moving.
They're generally moving about. So like for instance, when I'm standing in a place, I'm not taking up 5 foot by 5 foot square. I'm not that big. But like in a combat situation, I'm shuffling around. Like I'm kind of existing in this space.
Like a general range of motion in a 5 foot cube is a 5 foot cube, I guess. Like your sword's out, etc. Yeah,
all that jazz.
I get it. It's just like.
So yeah, the long limb, that's a feature. They also have a feature called Powerful Build. You count as one size larger when it comes to like carrying stuff, which makes sense. Big, strong boys. They're medium size technically, but they border on the size of large.
I DM'd for a bugbear and like. I forgot. I read that initially. You're going over all your PC stats and stuff to know what kind of puzzles to throw in. Mm-hmm. And I would do puzzles and I'd be like, I would try to build puzzles like, this guy's just going to pick this fucking shit up.
Yeah, there you go.
What is 500 pounds? Like, like
so true.
To this fucking guy.
They have a feature called Sneaky, which just makes them proficient in stealth. And then lastly, they have a feature called Surprise Attack, which I think is verbatim the same one from the Monster Manual, which just says, if you surprise a creature and hit it with an attack within the first turn of combat, the attack deals an extra 2d6 of damage.
Nice.
You can use this trait only once per combat, though. That is specific to the player character. The monster character can fucking do that all they want.
Yeah, okay.
Although you're only going to get a surprise round once a combat anyway, so...
Unless you take a hide action.
Let's see. It says if you surprise a creature and hit it with an attack on your first turn in combat.
Oh, first turn. Okay.
I mean, it's a one-off anyway, so that's a kind of a useless caveat at the end there. Lastly, they could speak, read, and write common in Goblin. I would definitely. I mean, I feel like if you're a bugbear from normal bugbear lore, you could probably speak Goblin and a little bit and maybe speak common, but reading and writing. You're going to have to come up with story reasons to make that work for me personally as a dungeon master.
I mean,
I know some people don't care, but that's,
maybe they write poorly and maybe they don't get enough from reading. Like they can't read complex text, but they can follow like, hey, turn left at the fork. And they're like, maybe. I can do that.
Yeah. It's just like, it's not that I don't think bugbears are capable of reading, 8 intelligence is perfectly capable of reading. It's just like, reading, it requires education and bugbears don't have that. So,
I mean, like they don't have like, the normal education of mob packs where they ransack their an adventuring party and take all their literature and just like start poking through it.
I would say think about how human beings learn to read and how long that takes and how much actual education that is put into just reading your language. Like that's why I would say just come up with a reason why your bugbear can do that. Otherwise, you can't.
I guess. I mean,
but that's just me. Obviously, you can hand wave it.
You can pick up survival traits just by going out and doing it. So maybe that's just like something they're coming across and they learn like basic words. Like, it really depends on the interaction. Where does a bugbear have cause to write? Like
exactly.
it's more like that to me, where like how applicable is the skill?
Well, where do they have cause to read if they're living in the wild?
That's exactly along the same line. Yeah. So
that's why if you come up with a legitimate reason, cool. If not, then don't worry about it. That's just something you can't do.
There's an old hag that has a soft place for bugbears in her heart, and she's just like, you know what? I'm not going to trick you or anything. I'm just going to teach you to read because you think you should know.
And with that being said, I think it's time to get ready for a long rest.
I want to get ready for a long rest.
So do I. But before we do that, we want to talk to you guys about our gaming channel, TDC Plays. It's a sister YouTube channel where me, Brian, and other people that are associated with the show, the Dungeoncast, get together and play some video games. We're playing Pokemon. We're playing Outlast. Undertale's coming up pretty soon. I think we're gonna do Shovel Knight. I know Smash Brothers is gonna happen soon.
Mega Man,
lots of Mega Man happen. Yeah,
platformers of all kinds.
I'm doing a playthrough of Zelda 2. So yeah, we got a lot going on. So if you like us and you want to hear more of us talking and you like video games and you want to see some of that too, come check out TDC Plays.
Yeah, mine are gonna be. I'm gonna tell a lot of stories when I play video games because they're very. All the video games I'm gonna play are very close to my heart.
For sure, absolutely.
What else? We talked about Super Quest Saga. Find that on our main YouTube channel, the Dungeoncast.
Indeed.
But if you want to support the show, want to help us keep the lights on, pay our hosting fees, et cetera, it does take some time, effort, and money to put the show together. We would be making it regardless because we love to do this, but it really, really warms our hearts to know that there are people out there that want to help support us monetarily. It would be just a fucking wild dream of mine to not have to do like I would love to just do this for work. Video and audio is really cool for me. It would be great to just do that. I'm working on making that a reality for me. So the fact that you guys are willing to help out with that, it's really great. So we try to give you really cool bonus content to help supplement, that donation. You get something to show for it also, which is
indeed. Yeah, we got all kinds of bonus content on Patreon. But yeah, if you want to support the show, check it out. It might be something you're interested in.
You could also support the show just by talking about it. Telling your friends to listen to the show is a really great way to help us out. You can find us on Twitter at the Dungeoncast. You can find us on Instagram by searching the Dungeoncast. You can email us, thedungeoncast@gmail.com, if you have any suggestions you want to talk about. Anything there, we read all the email and we do our best to respond to all of it. So thank you guys very much for people that do send in letters to the show. That's really, really cool. We get a lot of cool stories. And if you really want to help the show, please leave an iTunes review. If you are listening to the show on iTunes, that would be tremendously helpful. We get really nice iTunes reviews. We say that all the time. You guys are really, really great. We appreciate it very much. And check out our Discord.
Indeed.
There's a link for it down below.
Indeed, there is.
Thank you to all our sponsors. We have ad space available in the short rest and back end of the show for the foreseeable future. Our front space ads get taken up, but if you want to reach out, thedungeoncast@gmail.com again, I'll let you know what we do have available in the future and what our going ad rates are. They are fluctuating every now and again, so reach out to me to discuss that, and I don't have anything else.
So with that, I think we'll call it a game, and we will talk to you guys later.
Bye.
The Dungeoncast.